I'll just keep the volume up.
Can you hear me now?
Well, here we are again. A blink and we're back together again. And I love it. I love it. I am thrilled that we all chose to persevere tonight until we knew that we'd broken through. It's like, God, we can't quit now. Because I know we haven't broken through yet. And when we did, we all knew it, right? We broke through. You know, individually, it's the same thing. In our day, wherever we are, whatever the situation is, we just have to be there and be willing and just keep persevering. And the breakthrough comes from God. He looks at our heart and goes, okay, enough's enough. These are my kids, and I'm stepping in. Father, yes, that's it. You are good. You are so good. You are so good, Father. I can't wait to see you face to face. See my Father, the Father of my spirit. Like my little son Joshua 7 says, Papa, when Father God comes and lives on the earth with us, we have full access to your need, to your pleasure, to your favor, to all the resources of heaven, because you're good. We declare that to this region, every home represented in this region and in this facility. You are good. Not a tame lion, but you are good. Bless you. Father, thank you for releasing encouragement into our midst tonight. Strengthening us in the battle. We really, really need you. And you're good. Well, I hope you're all good students and brought your pens and papers and stuff, as the announcement said and stuff, because this is apostolic training weekends together. And I am, as I'm famous for, going to give out what? Anybody want to take a guess?
No.
Oh, see? Homework! I am going to be giving out homework, but it's for you. It's for you, for your benefit. To work on. If anyone doesn't get the questions at the end that I'm going to give out written down, just run around. You're all going to see each other. Get someone's phone number. Find one. See someone. Try that again. Find someone that you saw writing it down and say, I need those questions, please. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to give you a bit of historical teaching. Just break into this, and I'm leading somewhere tonight. Tonight I really want to look at in the time that we're living in the kingdom age, versus, let's say, the church age, and a mindset and understanding we had that was God for a very long time. Those are transitioning into kingdom age and into the return of God to live physically on the earth. When Father comes and lives on the earth, as my son would say, how in a practical way, hands-on, can I be involved in restoration and transformation? In a practical sense, the restoration and transformation of anything I see around me that needs that, in a hands-on way, what does that look like? Practical. And you know, there's this sacred cow kind of thinking that, well, when it gets really bad, we all take a supersonic flight out of here, wait till the mess gets cleaned up, come back and live on the earth, and everything's perfect. But that's just not the way God as a father deals with his kids. Not the way certainly I do. You made the mess, you're going to be involved in cleaning it up, right? When your children mess up the room and they make a mess of things, you don't just clean it all up for them and say, there, get your room all cleaned up, now son, you can go to bed. It ain't going to happen. And plus, I want to train my son how to clean up my room, for example. Not just take care of, but be involved in the bigger picture. And God, as a loving Father, has us in training for the process of restoration, which began 2,000 years ago, is ongoing, is accelerating, and will continue through the millennium till we've got things restored back to the garden. I mean, a month ago, that theme was going in the spirit we were singing here. I remember clearly that was going on, and it was here again tonight. And then He's going to clothe us, equip us to, hey, if we are true sons, and we are, and we're becoming, we want to be doing what Papa's doing. My son wants to be in the thick of everything I'm doing. Why can't I go with you, Papa, and see Donna and Moses? Right? And that's a very good question. It's totally valid. You know, when sons love their father, they want to be doing what the father's doing. And the Father is about the business through His Son, and now through us, with the Son living in us, the manifest sons, I'm getting warmed up about the process of restoration. So, that is wonderful doctrinal truth. But what does it look like, in particular tonight, I want to look at with other people. How do we do this together? You looked more interested when I said that. How relationally with one another, what does that look like? And a wonderful example, I didn't just pull out an example, really got with for 2 or 3 days, just while I was working away at the tree service work I do, just the whole story of Nehemiah and background to it just kept going through me. It's like Nehemiah was it for the week in my spirit. So when that's going on, I know God's up to something. So Friday, which was yesterday, I took the day to just look and listen and get in my own spirit, my mind, my spirit wrapped around this. So, Nehemiah chapter 4, verses 1 to 23, I'm going to read through, and then I'm going to give you some historical stuff, which is pretty cool related to this. And I'm going to hold this where I can read it. I got them and I ain't wearing them yet. One day, in the great yonder, and I crossed the Jordan River, but this night is not that night, I think. When Sanballat heard that we were rebuilding the wall, he became angry and was greatly incensed. He ridiculed the Jews, and in the presence of his associates in the army of Samaria, he said, "What are those feeble Jews doing?" Ever felt like that? Will they restore their wall? Will they offer sacrifices? Will they finish in a day? Can they bring the stones back to life from those heaps of rubble burned as they are? Tobiah the Ammonite, who was at his side, said, "What are they building? If even a fox climbed up on it, he will break down their wall of stones." Response, "Hear us, O God, for we are despised." Ever been there? "Turn their insults back on their own heads. Give them over as plunder in a land of captivity." No, Miss, "Oh, Father, would you just bless them and help them to have a good day?" No! Let them have it. Do not cover up off with their heads. Do not cover. Could you stand up here, Don, and show us what that would look like? That's it. Do not cover up their guilt or blot out their sins from your sight, for they have thrown insults in the face of the builders. This was specific. Did you get that? I mean, the prayer is like, let them have it, boom, boom, because they've thrown insults in the face of the builders. So, response, we rebuilt the wall till all of it, that off the head thing is, I'm still stuck there a bit, reached half its height, for the people worked with what? Heart. With all their heart. Lock on to that. There's a lot of specifics. They worked with all their heart. But when Sanballat, Tobiah, boy, I got a ring to use that word. Tobiah, the Arabs, the Ammonites, and the men of Ashdod heard that the repairs to Jerusalem's walls had gone ahead, and that the gaps were being closed, they were very angry. They were angry for now, they're very angry. They all plotted together to come and fight against Jerusalem and stir up trouble against it. But we prayed to our God and posted a guard day and night to protect this threat, to meet this threat. Meanwhile, the people in Judah said, "The strength of the laborers is giving out, and there is so much rubble that we cannot rebuild the wall." Also our enemies said, "Before they know it or see us, we'll be right there among them, and we will kill them and put an end to the work." Then the Jews who lived near there came and told us 10 times over. 10 times over. I was sick of it the first time. Wherever you turn, they will attack us. These were the encouragers. Therefore I stationed some of the people behind the lowest points of the wall at the exposed places, posting them by families, with their swords, spears, and bows. After I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, off with their heads. No, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your brothers, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes. When our enemies heard that we were aware of their plot, and that God had frustrated it, we all returned to the wall, each to his own work. From that day on, half of my men did the work, while the other half were equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor. The officers posted themselves behind the people, behind all the people of Judah who were building the wall. Now, get a picture of this, okay? Here's the wall. People are working it. Where were the leaders? They were behind them. Where were the enemy coming? From behind the leaders. They put themselves between the people and the job. The IDF, when the leaders go out to battle, they lead, they don't stay back. The Israeli Defense Force, they put on baseball caps, written on them, turn backwards, follow me. And that's how they go into battle. Leaders gotta lead. And this is about training, raising up leaders for God's kingdom purposes. We lead. We don't push people up front, we lead. We stand between them and the enemy. And I'll tell you, when the word gets out, there's a group of leaders that stands between us and the enemy, we're going to have a whole lot more people following it. Right? That's very important. They had their backs. They were behind their backs. The leaders had the people's backs. Anyone ever been betrayed by leadership that didn't have your back? Forgive them and say, God, I'm going to find people who will have my backs. Them I can follow. That's important. And it's not even in my notes. Okay. Don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who is great and awesome. Fight for your brothers, your sons, your daughters, your wives, and your homes. And when our enemies heard that we were aware of their plot, I know I've read this before, and that God had frustrated it, we all returned to the wall, each to his own work. From that day on, half of my men did the work, while the other half equipped with spears, shields, bows, and armor, and for Donna a sword to off their heads. The officers posted themselves behind all of the people of Judah who were building the wall. Those who carried materials did the work with one hand and held a weapon in the other. And each builder wore his sword, and we know what for, at his side as he worked. But the man who sounded the trumpet stayed with me. Then I said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, the work is extensive and spread out. We are widely separated from each other along the wall. Wherever you hear the sound of the trumpet, we're living in an era when the sound must be clear. Join us there. Our God will fight for us. So we continued the work with half the men holding spears from the first light of dawn until the stars came out. I don't know why it is. I still actually haven't figured it out, but something about that image. From the sunrise till the stars came out. I mean, I can see the beauty of it. Now, some of us in this room have been to Israel and seen what the stars like in the sunrise. So there's something about that. I'll figure it out someday, maybe. At that time, I also said to the people, have every man and his helper stay inside Jerusalem at night, so they can serve as guards by night and workmen by day. Think of that in a spiritual context. Guards by night, workmen by day. Guarding who? Each other. Neither I nor any brothers nor any men nor the guards with me took off our clothes. Each had his weapon even when he went for water. Okay, this is an amazing story in and of itself, and the history. I just want to give the history, and then I'm going to go into some specifics of keys and some questions at the end. Here's the historical context. The Jewish people had gone into exile in Babylon because of their sin. It's as simple as that. They disobeyed God. The consequence was they had gone into exile and their land had gone into ruin. And the time came at the end of that exile through God's divine orchestration and turning the hearts of people like Cyrus and others that they were actually blessed by pagan kings, pagan rulers. There was such a historic Kairos moment that come, and God said, now restoration begins, that they commissioned and even funded different groups of exiles to return to the land. So under Zerubbabel, who became the leader of Judah and the people, there was a first group of exiles that came back. Then under Ezra, if you like dates, so I can give you the dates. There are 400. First group was 538 BC with Zerubbabel, and then 458 BC with Ezra, who specifically, his commission was to come back and build the temple, the altar, the place of worship. The first thing that we need to establish is that. I believe that my whole being. That we fight for, that we protect, we build the altar of worship. And then the third group that's recorded that came, there's probably many groups, was in 445 BC, and that was with Nehemiah. And his specific goal was to rebuild the walls. Think of that spiritually. The walls are protected, close up the gaps, and then there's this provision. And so Nehemiah came, and we read the ongoing scenario. What he did is he went through the entire group of exiles, and he got people together based upon regions, territories, and family units to work together. Very specific. Every person had a very specific, I was going to say French, job description, that's the word. Job description, and a specific group of people that they worked with, and they knew exactly what their task was in the rebuilding of the wall. They were a remnant, they were weak, and in many ways they were heartbroken when they returned to see what they had to deal with. But they had a purpose that was so crystal clear. They knew that they knew that they knew that they were prophetic vessels chosen by God for a Kairos moment. They knew. We have returned to our land for a specific purpose. This is who we are. Their identity was crystal clear. We are Jewish people returning to our land. That is very important. All activity in life related to a spiritual calling is clear only to the point that our identity is secure in who we are. Otherwise, we'll just seek for identity in what we're doing and choose a calling based upon what we prefer to do. That makes sense? Very important. Very important. We need to know who the Father of our spirit is. We need to know who our family is in these things. Yes, there were a very small remnant of who they once were and who they're called to be, but they've been chosen by God. Bottom line, God called us. He sent us to this land. This is why we're here. And that is very important. Very, very important. Who am I? Here's where, if you want to, and I suggest you do, I'm just going to get some kinks out of my legs, start taking notes. Keys to rebuilding. The first one is that the vision and the purpose are clear. Very first thing. If you're going to build something, you need a clear blueprint to know what you're building. You must have a clear vision and blueprint. Let me tell you this, and I do have my wife here attest to it, quite a few years, it's 40 years exactly, almost to the day, it's coming up in about 2 months, that I've been walking with God, and I've discovered that, vision and purpose, ultimately, in the end, I have to have my own. I have to have a vision and a purpose that I own personally, that is clear to me. Then, I look for those who share that vision and purpose. But, if I'm looking to others to give me my vision and purpose, and yes, mentors and fathers and mothers and big brothers and sisters, all that are important to help me find my way. But if I'm living off of someone else's vision and purpose, and it's not my own, it does not work. It will fall apart somewhere along the way, because I have to own it deep in my heart. I will not stand there with a sword in one hand and a hammer in the other when that kind of crazy warfare is going on night and day, unless I have a clear purpose and a clear vision that I have owned, and that if everyone walks away from it, I've still got mine. My vision and purpose can't be dependent on another person's, but at the same time, we must come together in vision and purpose. And that's one of the ways, one of the key ways we find one another. Is God has purposes, different purposes for many different people's lives. And I can become very nomadic in my life, trying to find one that I like. Now, you know what, I like that one didn't. And we can spend our whole life trying to find a purpose and a vision. But sometimes you just got to get alone in the backside of the desert with God long enough till you get a vision and a purpose for your life. And in the days we're living, there are no options. There are no options. You know what happens when you don't have, and you come under leaders? You become pawns of other people's vision and purpose. I don't even like saying that, but it's absolutely true. And I felt God's hand on my shoulder when I said it. Like, Dan, that is very important what you just said. Spiritual abuse happens when you don't have a clear vision and purpose and you don't know your own identity. You're getting it from others. It's crucial. It's crucial. How many of us have, in one way or another, I'm certain most of this room have either personally experienced or seen the devastation from others. And there's no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts. Jesus went in the backside of the desert. He came out. He was lethal in his vision and purpose. He was still a man. Fully God, fully man. And the man needed, for what he walked through night and day, he needed to know where he was going, why he was going. And we need to too. And we can. And God doesn't hide it from us. Okay, I think I've hammered on that one. So point number one, key number one was we need a clear vision, a clear purpose. And as leaders, we need to continually be checking with those around us to make sure that they've got clear vision, clear purpose. Because we run together. Second key is to know your place, to know your giftings, your tools. Am I the one with the trumpet? Am I the one with the spear? Am I the one with the hammer? Am I the one with the sword? Is it both? What do I use at night? What do I use in the day? It's very important. How many people I've met, and for years, they looked at others, admired, and longed for their gifting, longed to be in their position on the wall, so to speak, but couldn't tell you what their gifting was or what their position was. And they follow together. You don't think, well, I can do this, now let's find a place where I can use my gifts. No. Have that vision and purpose. And then when you come together with others, say, here's what I have. To serve in relation, find how we fit together. Know your place. And I'm speaking specifically in this kingdom age of restoration. Where am I called to build? They had to make a long journey. Back to I come from another country to come here and build. In relation, because I know who I am. I know what I'm called to do. And then I found the people that God had put me with in covenant who shared the same vision. And it's amazing. When you get in there and lock onto that, then things start to move. And that's important. 3, and this, now I'm going to get into the stuff I wrote in red, my own notes. And these, God, by your Spirit, speak louder and deeper than I possibly can. Chapter 4, verse 14. Posting them by families. On that wall, there was literally families, tribal groups. You see, when it says family here, it's not talking about like a father and a mother and a child. There was like clan families, tribes. They were intentionally placed by communities, by groups. You read the previous chapters, it details it. Their names, where they came from, their region, their territory, their gifts, what their specific part of the wall to build, how they did it. Crystal clear. This is who we are. This is my family. And this is what we're called to do. And I can assure you, the vast majority of Christians, irregardless of how successful they are, if you were to ask them that question, not what church do you attend, but where's your family? And then it's different. Because you can have a family within a greater assembly, or you can be there and spend 30 years, but deep inside, you could not truthfully say, I have a tribe and a family. But I'm here. I like that vision. Very different from, I got a sword. Donna's is bigger, but that's okay. I got a sword, and I got a hammer, and this is my family. Do you know how good it feels when you're introduced, when you meet people, and how you're introduced? This is part of my covenant family. Satan goes, ooh, he does not like that. He does not like that. I'm telling you, this is crucial. If you're going to find your place on the wall, you've got to know who your family is. And there's an invitation in the Spirit. It's a blast of heaven's trumpet. Now is the time to find your family. How do you do that? You start with God. God, who am I? We're all on journey, different places. What's inside of me? See, you identify your family by a DNA. When the medical profession does tribal research, blood typing, all this kind of stuff, they go to the DNA and they say, this DNA is absolute, irrevocable proof that this is your family. I never knew. It doesn't matter. This is your family. And it's the same with us as we build in the kingdom of God. We need to know who our family is, who shares the DNA. So I find out who I am, so I have a reference point in relationship to God. I am a son of my Father. That's why this whole revelation of the heart of the Father, sonship versus orphan spirit, a nomadic kind of way of living life is so crucial. I know that's my Father. When I meet someone who knows who their Father is, I know. They don't say, you know what, I've had a revelation of the teaching of the Father. There's something, there's a recognition. There's a recognition. You know that old term, we recognize one another by the Spirit? I've reduced it down to this. Yeah, you can quote me on my TV. This orphan spirit or the spirit of sonship. That's what spirit I recognize people by. Are they walking with an orphan spirit? Or are they walking in sonship? So, you guys following with me? You're tracking with me where I'm going with this? Okay. Find your family. Number 4. More red letters. This, for me personally, this is it. In this whole, it comes, this is how I make my stand. Do not be afraid of them. Remember the Lord who is great and awesome, and fight for your brothers, your sons, and your daughters, your wives, and your homes. We need to know what we're fighting for. As I'm telling you, you're either fighting or you've been conquered and taken into captivity. And there's no neutrality. There never has been. It's all an illusion. Neutrality in the kingdom of God. And you're born and your feet hit this planet for the first time. You're born into war. And you can live in incredible rest, and you can have a banqueting table in the very presence of your enemies. Absolutely, yes, but you're born into war. But we need to know who our tribe is. We need to know our purpose, our calling, get these things. And we need to know what we're fighting. It has to become personal. That's what I wrote here. Make it very personal. For me, it's very personal. When I come here, it's for people. I can tell you their names. I can tell you many details of their lives. And I began with a personal covenant stand with Donna. It's that simple. Dan, what are you doing in Gloucester? I have a covenant friend in Gloucester that God has called me to stand with. Now I have a covenant family in Gloucester that I'm called to stand with as well. And a purpose. And I can tell you that purpose. And with a smile on my face, shame, shame, shame on all of you if I can tell it better than you can. Because you've been here longer than you live here. You hear what I'm saying? I'm messing with you. But I'm serious at the same time. We need to know. So what is it? It's not complicated. I'm standing Why am I going to? I'm standing with Don, I'm standing with Daniel. I go and I name your names. And I do. Where's your local church? It's about a 5-hour drive from the house. I'm serious, because I don't see things in quite the traditional, denominational way. But I love the body of Christ. It's personal to me. Very, very personal. I take it serious and personal. Means it involves people. It's when I'm fighting, when I'm standing, when I'm praying, when I'm bleeding my blood, and I actually have a couple of times related to ministry, it's for people, it's personal. It's not an idea or something I want to see happen someday. It's people. When Jesus bled, it was for his Father and for his friends and for us. It was very, very, very personal. And it has to be. The heart has to be engaged up. It becomes personal. And Satan's tactic is to get ethereal, disconnect somehow that we can't wrap around it. And if we can't commit to it. Nor should we. When someone doesn't know what to do with a ball and it gets passed and they've never played a ball game, you can't yell at them and say, "Dummy, don't you know what to do?" The answer is, "No, I don't. You're the dummy if you don't teach me." And that's part of what this is about, is everything flows in relationship, starting with the Father into us and out through us, those around us. That's where he initiates. It's got to be personal. And when it's personal, no one needs to pump anyone up to keep going. We carry each other. We do what we need to keep going together, but it's personal. We know why. It's people. When it's people, you can't just walk away from it either. And we need to remember that. When the battle is about, it's for the love of my King, and it's for these people that he loves and I love. It's so very different. It's not about a job or a task. It becomes life. It's my purpose for what I breathe. It's why I'm alive. It's there in my thoughts, night and day. It's not a project. It's me. I am the message, even if I've got one. You know what I'm saying? It's personal. It has to become personal. Why does the military take you out of civvy clothing and indoctrinate you into a military mindset? Because you have to own those other people you're warring with. They got to become your brothers. And Paul himself said, no one involved in military warfare can be concerned with the affairs of civilian life. It is absolutely true. I wasn't long in the military, but I was long enough to learn that. I've been in a battle for many years that is a different type of battle that I can assure you, life depends on it. If you cannot count on, if you're not fighting for the person beside you, and that is classic war historical language, when soldiers would be asked, what is it you're fighting for? They don't have a grasp, the average guy in the trenches, of what the whole political battle and 50 years down the road, significance of this ruler and oil fields and all this kind of stuff. And there's no time to explain it, even if they could. It comes down to, I'm fighting for the guy beside me to keep him alive. He's fighting to keep me alive. It's personal. So that we can go home and be with our families. Right? That's what it comes down to. And it's easy to focus that way. When it gets out of here, and it gets into here, and it's owned in this part of our being, right in here. Satan is deathly afraid of that. We call it the passion of Christ. Last time, remember, marked as living martyrs, we're continuing. We just went beep, and here we are again. Someone nodded off, and we're still here. It's got to be personal. In 5, it's about the trumpet. Keep very clear lines of communication so that you're always united in that vision and purpose. The lines of communication. Again, that is military. The very first thing you do, if you want to take the enemy out, is you cut the communication lines and isolate the units one from another. It is classic strategy. Whether it is a terrorist going into someone's house to take someone out, they're going to cut the phone lines, they're going to cut the power. The first thing you do, cut the power, cut the communication, isolate, bring into darkness, go in and destroy. That's the enemy. Separate us from one another. We don't just, call one another, hang out with one another and stuff as a duty or because I kind of like that person. It all has places a little bit in there, but really it's because our life depends on it. And that communication is a tangible substance, proof, if you will, of the fact that we are a family. That we are a unit. Let's bring it back into the military. In a military family. And that language is used in the military. We're a family. I'm telling you, it is so important. What is Satan's favorite thing? Isolate. Isolate, cut communication, and we begin to imagine what the other person thinks, but we really don't know. Who's feeding our imagination? And about ourselves, because we don't have people looking aside saying, you are speaking truth to us, and keep one another going. In lines of communication, be listening. So and so, that's where we put our strength today. That's where the energy goes today. And that's communication and intercession, as I see it. And communicating intercession. And being very intentional about those things is crucial. And the end result is that the wall gets rebuilt. It does. There's no shortcuts to this. And I'm not just passionately convinced that this is true. I lived it and I am living it. These are the battles that I face weekly and sometimes daily. And let me say this. It begins first in our homes. For all of us, it's in our homes. Whatever that means. It's in our homes. Sometimes our homes are, if we're single people, it's 2 or 3 people that we're close, that are our closest family. Whatever our home, our family, and it spreads out from there. That we keep, that we protect, keep the lines of communication open. So, yeah. That clear? And this really was a teaching. It wasn't, prophetic. It's truth. This is truth. This is biblical standards and strategies from the heart of God. And I can feel it in my guts that it's really important. It's really important. So here's the homework. Everybody got paper and pencil that wants to or listening. If you don't, this homework is voluntary. But this is a training school, if you will. It's a training evening. That's the purpose. So I get to give out homework. It makes me feel special, especially when you guys look at me the way you do. I go, oh, here we go. I know what's coming. Homework. Listen, if they start whining and complaining, you just get up here and wave your sword at them. So I'm going to go through this. You'll quickly figure out that the questions are got a little oomph to them too. That's intentional. And they're totally based on the first 5 statements that I made of the keys to rebuilding. Do I have a clear vision and purpose for my life? If so, write it down. Write the vision, make it clear, and run with it. Right out of Scripture. I write down. I can take you right, and I can say, it's written right here. And you know what? I revise and I listen, and God adds in, He clarifies, He focuses, He prioritizes. But I can give you a running thing for you. That I look, and I say, God, you spoke, I know, and how does that fit with the people I'm walking? I do this. Do I have a clear vision and purpose for my life? If so, write it down. If not, pursue God to find out why not. If I don't have a clear purpose and vision, I pursue God to find out why not. And I write down what He shows me. Ask Him. I mean, all of it for me, all of it has come from asking and sharing my heart continually with those that I'm in a covenant relationship with. See, God speaks by Himself, for Himself sometimes, and sometimes He has others speak for Him on His behalf. So we need each other, but we need to be hearing God. So you can bounce off of people. Just don't take their vision and rubber stamp it as your own. You know what I'm saying? That's important. Okay. Question number 2. Do I know my place in God's kingdom of restoration, rebuilding the wall, if you will? Do I know my place? Do I know where that gap is in the wall? I'm just giving you, you don't have to write everything I'm saying. The question is, do I know my place in God's kingdom for restoration, rebuilding the wall? Do I know where that gap is? Do I know where I've been called, where I'm called to stand and repair? If yes, write it down. If no, pursue God to find out what my place is. Write down what He shows me. Including talking with people if I need to talk, have people pray with me and help me in the process. That's what fathers and mothers do. My son doesn't have at 7 years old a clear vision and purpose for his life. But you know what? Daily, I'm helping him discover that. And I'm seeing it coming out, and I go, man, I better be faithful to help him with that. Question 3. Have I found a family, tribe, that I know I belong to? If not, what may be the reasons? Pursue God, ask Him to show me, and write down what He shows me. We go back to the source, we go back to the Father, we dialogue with people, but always from the original source of the communication, because it's related to my identity. All of this relates to identity, your purpose. Rejection, offense, and all these kinds of things that isolate us are really related to our identity, our security and our identity. Question number 4. Is it clear to me what I'm contending for and what I'm building? Some people can tell you what their giftings are, but they can't tell you what they're meant to do with them. So what happens when you've got a lot of gifting and no clear, specific purpose in relationship and accountability with others? You're a loose cannon. And that's particularly true of the prophetic. If the prophetic isn't tied in relationship to a family and part of the building process, if it's just a gifting, then it's a cannon that wants to fire at everything it gets a chance to shoot at. That's the truth. And I have the right to say that because it's the truth. And because I care. But it's the truth. If yes, I know what I'm contending for and what I'm building, write it down. If no, pursue God to find out why I'm half-hearted, because that's what it does. It makes me half-hearted. And unable to deeply engage and write down what He shows me. Pursuing God. Always go back to God. Tendency can be to look at everyone else and feel bad about it and just get in that thing. We could stay there for years. Go to the one who said, born today, born here for this purpose. Taught my son that this week. It was a wonderful time. He asked me this question. You know what my 7-year-old asked me? He said, Father, Papa, in French, Papa, why did Father God make me be born when the world is getting so dark? He's 7 years old. That's a very, very important question. My answer had to be clear to him. So this is what I said. I said, Joshua, you know the little Bible that we read together? He said, a child's Bible. I said, in that Bible, I said, Abba God decides the day that we're born, where we're born, and what purpose we're born for. And he said, what's my purpose? I said, you're to be a warrior who loves God, and you fight to see the bad man's darkness destroyed. That's his language. So he can. Yep. And he gave some kids example of how he's going to do that. He said, so what do I fight with? What are my weapons? What are my tools? I mean, see, to him it's literal. If you ask my son, we're at war. Satan hates us, is trying to kill us. So I said, Joshua, is obedience. So he said, yeah, when I don't obey, I open up a door and a bad man comes in, puts darkness in my heart, and he laughs at me and he puts chains on me. Yes, that's what happens. So, isn't that cool? Man, I wish I had someone teaching me this at his age. So yes, we need mentors of one another. We go to the source. We go to the Father. Am I, this is number 5, am I a clear, consistent communicator with my family and tribe? Am I a clear and consistent? Am I releasing a sound of communication, whatever that looks like? Am I clearly, consistently communicating with my tribe? Because we're not always together physically in the same place. We're spread out along the wall. If yes, keep it up. If no, pursue God for insight as to why and how I can improve. When he gives me specifics, write it down. So that's the questions, and here's your scripture. You may want to use this text as well. It's an excellent text. But Isaiah 61, talking about the repairs of the breach in the wall, and I could just preach for 2 hours straight right now on that, and it's all there. But I want you to do your own digging and praying and say, God, because in the first 3 verses, it shows God's working in the hearts of people that leads them to the place where, near the end of the 3rd verse, suddenly they become the very people who repair the streets with dwellings, a people of restoration. It's prophetically spoken of Yeshua, but he is prophetically speaking there to the prophet of the work he will do in each and one of us and who we become. And that's it. The homework. Not so bad, huh? You got a month. It might kind of look like you did your homework next month when we're together. But I have something very specific, and we do have the time, and it's not going to take a whole lot of time, but a prophetic act in response to all of this, of responding. Isn't that deep? And God just gave me this picture. I'm listening to him because I haven't got it all figured out, which would be scary if I did, because God gets pretty small pretty quick. But I feel this thing about standing as families and fighting for your husband, your wife, your children, your home, this thing, that there's something in that. I just feel it in my spirit tonight. And could we symbolically before the Lord make a wall together? And stand with who, if your family is with you tonight, stand with your family. And we're standing before God. And what I've just read, as we stand before the Lord, I'm just going to read some of those verses over again. As if, okay, I'm Nehemiah. And we've been given a wall to rebuild. And we're in the midst of battle. That's not imaginary, by the way, we are. We both have something to restore, rebuild. It's called God's original intent. God's original purpose. For any piece of land, for any people group. God has original intent and purpose. And just stand before him and see what happens. As a prophetic, taking a prophetic step and saying, okay, I'm going to step into this. And I just want to read those verses over you. And then, if some of the team receives something, the fathers and mothers that are here tonight from the Lord, something to say to, I will just step in, and that's as far as I've got at the moment. But and then after that, we will go our various ways and do our homework. Okay? So, there's room to do this. Let's just say, don't trip over those wires. Don't trip over any wires.